Hey everyone! Welcome to another Stonehearth Desktop Tuesday. If you've been following along with last week's Desktop Tuesday and Stream 300, you know that what you are looking at right now is footage from a 9-person playtest of one of our early Stonehearth multiplayer experiments. Before we start, let me just say that everything you see is experimental, only half implemented, and subject to change. In particular, things like encounters and traders only work for player 1, who in this case is Engineer Angelo, and you can't yet do basic things like save the game. So that said, what's going on in the scene? Well, right now you're looking at an island on which Artist Alley, Artist Mally, and a few other people have chosen to settle together. Each of them has their own banner and fire pit and hearthlings, but they're essentially building one town. They can easily share or steal resources via the loot tool and design houses together via the building editor. Out on the edge, we have Chris and Max, who prefer to play with their own space, and me and Linda, who wanted to prank the people on the island by digging under the lake, and of course Justin, who suspiciously embarked on a mountain and who's used Stonehearth's gravity-defying physics to plot oversight on all of us. The main things that we learned from this experiment are 1. That adding multiplayer to a community builder is a great way to hang out with your friends. For a while we weren't sure how this sort of interaction would fit into the game because nobody has ever really done it before, but the answer is that building and trading together feels awesome. Number 2. All the pranking made us wonder about whether the game should have a declare war button, or maybe just that we shouldn't play with Albert anymore, or maybe Richard. What do you think? Number 3. Multiplayer really pushes the game to its technical limits. For example, because we're using a client-server model and Angelo's hosting us all, we're all essentially playing on Angelo's computer. This introduces some solvable problems like how to get encounters fairly distributed among people, but also opens issues like, if you're far from his computer, your experience may be slower than everyone else's as we send giant chunks of data over long distances. What things, perhaps like building, should we break up into smaller and more easily communicable chunks? In this particular playtest, latency was actually fine, despite the fact that Chris was across the country, but that may not be true all the time on the open internet. The final technical limitation, and the one that we do not think we can actually solve, is that in our basic model, one machine must handle all the Hearthlings at the same time. This means that the more people who join, the slower the game gets for everybody. Should the game set limits on the number of people who join? Should multiplayer involve fewer Hearthlings per town? Again, we would love your thoughts on this. Before we finish, I want to stop and acknowledge the incredible work that Tony and Angelo did to get us to this point. As an engineer, I was often frustrated with the fact that Tony's original design for Stonehearth enforced a strict client-server model because it meant that when I was working on client-side stuff like ghost entities for placement, or music changing from day and night, I had to jump through lots and lots of hoops to get server-side data to myself. In the end, however, I always followed his model because he built it in such a way that subverting it to hack in whatever I needed was way more work than going along with the correct solution. This meant that years later, when it was time to turn multiplayer on, Angelo only had to work hard for a day and a half to get the initial connection to happen because he didn't have to sort through all of the hacky cruft that I might have put in if I'd had my way. In the land of computer science stories, this was nothing short of miraculous. There was a chance, we honestly thought, that it could take months or more. So having it in any time at all was amazing. So when can you expect to see multiplayer? Well, alas, no time soon. Despite the fact that we now have connectivity, a large number of other hard technical and design problems remain that Engineer Angelo, Engineer Morgan, and Engineer Linda are currently tanking. For example, a ton of work is involved in making sure that a client cannot maliciously attack a host computer through the game. Mods must currently be manually installed and enabled on both host and client computer for the game to work properly. Saves currently don't work at all, and what should happen when one player saves and exits the game but everyone else wants to keep playing? These questions and more will keep us busy for a while yet, but in the meantime, we'd love to hear your thoughts here in the comments or on our forum at discourse.stonehearth.net. Next week, there will be no Desktop Tuesday on account of American Thanksgiving, and there will be no stream on Thanksgiving Thursday, but we will return with more updates on Tuesday, December 5th. See you then!